Let's start, as always, with the headlines from tomorrow's front pages. And we'll start with the Express. And quite an enviable headline. Fearful Britons sitting on a cash pile of 1.7 trillion quid. Careful families have built up a giant savings pot worth 1.7 trillion in the pandemic. Households are now torn between spending as COVID rules are relaxed and keeping cash for rising bills. Meanwhile, Hollywood trailblazer Sidney Poitier dies at the age of 94. We'll be discussing that story about that remarkable guy and his incredible career in the next couple of minutes. The Sun newspaper, Denise ditches phone sex fiancé. That's a very good old-school 80s-style Sun headline. Heartbroken telly star Denise Van Outen has ditched her fiancé after discovering he's been having phone sex and dates with other women. I've never done phone sex. My phone just isn't big enough. The I newspaper, NHS exodus. Medics leave en masse after grim 2 years. Early signs that the spread of Omicron is slowing among some age group, say officials. So that's a mixed bag, really. Bad news for recruitment and manpower in the NHS, but good news in terms of the trajectory of the virus. Let's have a look at the Times now. New defence chief warns of Russian threat at sea. The head of the armed forces has warned Russia that any attempt by Moscow to sever crucial underwater communication cables could be considered an act of war. Admiral Satoni Radakan, who the Times needlessly reminds us is 56, he's the chief of the defence staff, has raised concerns about the increase in Russia's underwater activity. There's been a phenomenal increase in Russian submarine and underwater activity over the last 20 years, he told The Times. He might be 56, but he's looking good on it. Now, let's have a look at the Telegraph. Fourth jabs won't be necessary, say experts. Fourth jabs are not currently needed, according to the government's scientific advisers, as evidence grows that Omicron is far milder than previous variants. Perhaps we should have paid more attention to what the South African authorities were telling us when news of this new variant emerged many weeks ago. The Joint Committee on Vaccination and Immunisation, the JCVI, announced last night that boosters continue to provide high levels of protection against severe disease from Omicron in older adults, including the most vulnerable. So overall, you've got to say it's a good news story. Leaseholders are to be spared cladding bills. That's good news. Hundreds of thousands of leaseholders are to be spared the cost of stripping Grenfell-style cladding from their properties after the government backed down and said it would make the building industry pay instead. Well, I think that rights a significant wrong. Meanwhile, the Queen might be asked to help pay off the Duke of York's legal bills if he decides to settle out of court with his accuser. That clearly is a story that's going to run and run. Let's head to The Independent. Another brilliant photograph of the legendary actor and film director Sidney Poitier, brandishing his Oscar for Best Actor in 1964. An icon of cinema. Will reflect on his career shortly. Ministers playing games with law on Colston case as well. The government have been accused of trying to subvert the justice system after the Attorney General announced she may refer the Colston statue case to the Court of Appeal. Perhaps the government are a bit worried about the idea of people going around doing criminal damage and claiming that their motivation is political. The Daily Mirror, vaccination stampede, double-jabbed Brits in rush to book summer holes. Bookings hit pre-COVID levels as travel rules are eased. The Guardian, lawyers sound alarm at Tory meddling over Colston case. And Cummings makes new Number 10 party allegation. Dominic Cummings has alleged there was a lockdown-breaking party in the Downing Street garden 5 days after Boris Johnson and up to 17 staff were pictured in the same place with wine and cheese. Seriously, does anyone care about that anymore? Surely we've moved on from hashtag Winegate. And last but not least, the Daily Star, Exodus, bun fight to book holes. And Eamon, of course, Eamon Holmes, the star of the brand new breakfast show here on GB News with Isabel Webster. Eamon, touching my magic stick will cure me. TV legend, which indeed he is, and now, of course, of GB News, hopes to cure his devastating back pain with a magical stick. Did Gandalf do the same thing, or are we getting confused? Great news to see Eamon back where he belongs on national TV and, of course, as usual, making it on the front pages of the papers as well.